Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Kielder Observatory podcast, your audio guide to the cosmos from the heart of Northumberland's International Dark Sky Park. I'm your host, Ian Brannan, and along with me, Director of Astronomy, Dan Pye, and Science Communicator, Maura Shapiro, who's making her debut on the podcast because she's going to be telling us all about the Artemis II mission. Big news in February this. NASA currently in the final stages of preparing to blast off into space. The Orion capsule heading on its most ambitious mission yet. Later on, we'll find out what this means. We'll break down what the crew will experience as they become the first humans to leave low Earth orbit in over 50 years and what their success will mean for the upcoming Artemis III moon landing. Beyond that, we'll move from the launch pad to your backyard with a look ahead to what to expect from the night sky over the coming weeks as we prepare to say goodbye to winter and hello to spring. There's lots going on, the winter triangle, a planetary parade in store as well, and much more. All that on the way on the Kielder Observatory podcast. Well, let's get into it then. And first of all, let's meet our new addition to the crew at Kielder Observatory. Maura Shapiro is with us. You might have seen her on one or two of our social media posts recently, but as soon as she speaks, you'll realise that she's come from further afield than the outer confines of the Northumberland National Park.
Well, I'm happy to be here, Ian. I indeed hail from the States, but have been living in the UK for the past about year and a half now. Really enjoying my time here. I started at the observatory just about 3 months ago. Before that, I was pursuing my master's in science communication at the University of Edinburgh. So hopefully I'm good at talking about science at this point.
Well, that's why you're here, and already doing a great job. And we're going to hear you in action shortly because you're going to guide us through the main topic. But when it comes to the night sky in this part of the world, I guess it's similar, is it, to what you expect to see in the States? Of course, you've got the dark skies. No shortage of them, I guess, in parts of the USA. But tell us about where your fascination, I guess, with space started.
I grew up just outside Washington, D.C. with incredible access to museums. Just 20 minutes away from my home is the Air and Space Museum that houses the Space Shuttle Discovery. So growing up, I was visiting constantly the two Air and Space Museums around me, and that really cemented my interest in astronomy. It wasn't until actually I learned about the Drake equation, though, the equation that theoretically calculates the amount of civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy, that I decided I would become a physicist and went to university to pursue a degree in physics, where I researched exoplanets. My team basically hunted down new planets outside of our solar system. Wow. And then my career kind of shifted to science communication. As far as skies go, I can certainly see many more stars here than I ever could back home in DC, or even where I did my astrophysics research in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Exoplanets, though, that is a fascinating topic in itself. We've talked about it a number of times, and I know that when we've had various experts on about the search for life as such, that exoplanets certainly seem to be top of the charts when it comes to likely places where we're going to achieve that.
Definitely, but it's actually looking within our own solar system that we might find the first real solid evidence for life outside of Earth. So after hunting down new exoplanets, I'm now actually a little bit more interested in the search for life closer to home.
Yes. Well, I think, Dan, you believe that it's hiding. Are you still sticking with it? Is it the Jupiter moons?
Yeah, that's where I think we're going to find it first. Yeah, that's where my money still is.
Not Enceladus?
Yeah, well, no, I think too far. I think too far. But I think because we're already on the way to Jupiter, that when we get there, I think there'll be some really interesting things to come out of it. Yeah, some life. That would be nice.
Well, Jupiter is obviously a fair old distance off. Let's turn to our main topic this evening. And there's a lot talked about online in the newspapers at the moment, a lot of excitement naturally about the Artemis mission, which has already begun. They've already started this a while back, but now it's getting to the point where humans are getting involved. And you may well have seen these posts on Facebook saying, we're going to the moon. Why is nobody talking about it? Well, they are talking about it. I'm going to talk about it now and explain exactly what's going on. So obviously, this all began in the 1960s, going to the moon. It's not something new. We'll talk in a few moments about why now and the history from that side of things. Artemis, though, sibling of Apollo in Greek mythology, and that's where the name comes from, of course, and so there is that little link between the original moon missions and now. But just to update us on what's going on right now, first of all, Maura, Artemis is in 3 stages. Artemis 1 has already happened. Artemis 2 is where we're at. Artemis 3 is where people are going to the moon. But so just talk us through what's happened up to this point and where we're at now.
Yeah, so like you said, Artemis 1 was an uncrewed mission, basically testing the hardware and software, make sure everything is safe before you put people into space. So Artemis 2 is testing, again, the hardware, software capability with a more intense focus on the health and safety of the crew. And that, as we said, will be in preparation for Artemis 3, which will include people landing on the moon's surface. So Artemis 2 will go to the moon. It will circle behind the moon, taking humans farther out in space than they have ever been before, but will not land on the moon's surface. Where we are right now, we're speaking February 1st. In the next 24 hours, the wet dress rehearsal will begin for the Artemis 2 rocket. February 2nd at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, that will be 2 a.m. for us in the UK. It will begin fueling the Space Launch System, which is the rocket that will take humans up to space. It will begin fueling it, testing the countdown clock, and then draining the tanks again. And this is to make sure that we can safely launch people. Following that wet dress rehearsal, we will then get a more clear understanding of when the Artemis 2 mission will really launch. This has been postponed slightly. The original launch goal was February 6th. That has been pushed back due to some weather concerns in Florida. The U.S. has been hit with some pretty extreme cold, some unusual cold for this time of year, and it's really important that the weather conditions are safe for launch.
So it's really looking the 8th of February, thereabouts, at least. That's probably the earliest time, isn't it? So it'll be somewhere in that sort of end of the first week into the second week of February when we're looking at the rocket blasting off. And it is an impressive piece of hardware as well, isn't it, that's going to be going there. It's very much back to the Saturn V days, really, in terms of how it looks, isn't it? Quite a departure from the likes of the space shuttle. But then again, the mission is more like the original Apollo missions with different stages and command modules and so on.
Yeah, there has been a number of comparisons to the Saturn V rocket, which took the Apollo astronauts to the moon. Many of those comparisons are founded. It is quite costly, similar to the Saturn V rocket, but it should provide more thrust than the Apollo missions ever received. And actually, the Artemis mission, Artemis II, will be the first time humans have ever used this Space Launch System, a rocket that is many, many years in the making and faced a lot of delays in its production.
Tell us about the crew on board then, because that's going to be fairly significant as well, isn't it? Breaking new ground there, because it's been very much obviously a very small group of people. We haven't been up to the moon since the early 70s, and so this is quite deep into space. The moon much further into space than any space shuttle goes. So there's new records going to be set when this mission does launch.
Yeah, so a crew of 4 will ride in the Artemis II mission. Reed Weissman, Victor Glover, and Christina Koch, all from NASA, and a Canadian Space Agency astronaut, Jeremy Hansen. This crew of 4, like you said, is breaking new ground in space. It carries the first person of color to go to the moon, the first woman, and the first non-American. So a lot of exciting new ground. And the Artemis II mission really reinforces that space is for everybody. And they are demonstrating this through their crew.
Let's talk about the mission, because they're not just blasting off like on a cartoon and landing there 20 minutes later. It is a long old way to the moon, isn't it? They're going to be in quite close confines. I've read online that it's probably akin to living in a van for a good 10 days or so. And that means every single function of life in there as well. So not for the faint-hearted, actually, this mission, in terms of the close proximities they're going to be living in. There's going to be no showers. Obviously, we don't need to mention the toilet, but that's going to be a concern as well. And they're going to be strapped in there on their way to the moon, and very little space to move.
Yeah, so like you said, it will be fairly small. When we think about space travel now, a lot of people conjure up the idea of the International Space Station, which is about the size of a large house, maybe a mansion, six rooms, a 360 view of space. By comparison, inside the Orion spacecraft, it will be more akin to a studio apartment, close quarters for four astronauts. You actually did mention the toilet, and so I will touch upon how that
it's
is
the question people
up.
are asking. People are asking.
We always
That's
end
what
up
they wanna
talking
know.
about toilets. The conversation always descends into toilets.
Even when we spoke to Clay, we had the astronaut on. We did that, and we asked for questions, and the questions were all about toilets.
Yep, toilet.
And he did answer them in full detail. But so but you're saying that obviously this is, we're now in 2026. Things have moved on. Maura, tell us about the new toilet.
Well, compared to the Apollo astronauts who didn't have any toilet, it is a step up. There is a toilet. As far as the dirty details, I think I'll let our listeners explore themselves. So the inside of the Orion spacecraft, which is the vehicle that will carry these astronauts in space, is about twice the volume of the Apollo capsule. So they will have more space. The Apollo astronauts would fit three astronauts in the vessel. So this crew of 4 will have much more maneuverability than the Apollo astronauts did. However, the Orion spacecraft theoretically can host up to 6 astronauts. Wow. So then you revert back to the Apollo astronaut to volume ratio. But there is a lot of research that will happen on board, and not insubstantially, how astronauts behave and move in close quarters is something that they will be studying. So as far as science goals go on this mission, many of those goals are actually regarding astronaut health. As far as astronaut behavior and movement, they will be wearing smart watches that will track their vital signs in real time, their sleep schedules, their movement. It's basically like you had Strava, but for every aspect of your life.
Could you imagine that Strava map? Just imagine that Strava map just for a second.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're definitely the local legends of space.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so they'll have basically these watches that track their vitals, track their behavior. They will also be doing comprehensive cognitive tests before, during, and after, as well as other biological tests to assess, again, the baseline health of these astronauts and how space travel impacts that. There's a lot of emphasis on astronaut health, not just because they're in really close quarters, but because they will be exposed to more radiation than astronauts have been in the past couple of years of space travel. And that's because the International Space Station resides in low Earth orbit, where they're protected by a lot of the Earth's magnetic field from radiation. And going to the moon, you lose a lot of this protection. So there are a number of missions looking at how much radiation is bombarding the spacecraft, how much radiation there is in space on this trajectory and how much of that radiation is hitting the astronauts. And then, of course, measuring the astronauts on kind of a cellular level to see how they withstand the radiation in that space environment. Because, of course, this is a really big issue. Radiation are these charged particles coming from the sun, but also everywhere in space. And they can break down DNA, cause cancer, damage cells. So it is really important that if we are looking forward to having a larger presence of people in space, making them go farther out than humans have ever traveled before, we have to ensure that they can do this safely, protected from the damage caused by radiation.
Tell us about the routes and how they're going to do this then, because they're not just taking off and flying straight to the moon. They've got some orbits of the Earth to do first, and then there's a bit of a slingshot, isn't there? So explain the routes that they're going to be taking.
Yeah, so their trajectory basically takes them on an initial low Earth orbit. To launch, they'll use the SLS, this big rocket, the Space Launch System, and then they'll discard those fuel bits once they've been used up, and then the Orion spacecraft will be flying itself. It will swing around Earth into a high Earth orbit. But what's interesting is they really want to assess how maneuverable the Orion spacecraft is. And so to do that, they're going to do a test where they track in, they align the spacecraft with a rejected fuel cell. And so they're able to assess the maneuverability, the handling. And this is really important to set up for Artemis II, where a lunar lander will have to leave the Orion space capsule, land on the moon surface, and then, so this type of test will happen on the way to the moon. It will then swing behind the moon. At its farthest point, it will be 4,700 miles away from the moon's surface. What that means, if you want to visualize that, is if you looked out the window at the moon will be approximately the size of a basketball held at arm's length. So an interesting perspective to see, and I'm looking forward to the images coming out of that. After it swung behind the moon, it will actually use gravity from the Earth to pull itself back to Earth's surface. So it won't need any fuel if everything goes according to plan for its return journey. It will then touch down off the coast of California in the Pacific Ocean, hopefully over the course of 10 days, wrapping up the mission.
The ultimate end goal with this, because the plan is not only to land humans back on the moon, but the plan is to get building on the moon ultimately and use that as a base. So just explain what the overall goal is if this all goes well.
Yeah, so the first part is getting people back to the moon. The Apollo mission suffered from kind of a lack of vision once we made it to the moon. The US won the space race, and then the appetite for lunar exploration kind of waned. That hopefully won't happen this time because we have a number of science goals to explore on the moon's surface. In addition, there's some exploration of commercial use of the moon's surface, which is a whole other gambit. But eventually the idea is that the moon would act as a sort of base for further exploration into deep space to Mars or other near-Earth asteroids. And again, there are a number of science goals oriented with that. As far as the science goals for exploring the moon's surface, there are a number of really exciting things that we hope to learn through the Artemis missions. Artemis III will land astronauts in the moon's south pole, which is a really interesting area on the moon because it contains one of the oldest and largest impact basins in the solar system. So we're really hoping to get some good samples from rocks down there to understand what the early solar system looked like. The reason why the moon is a better place to do this than Earth is that the moon doesn't have the weather, the flora, the fauna, the animals and plants. It doesn't have plate tectonics. So on Earth, our rock record has been erased and recycled to produce more rock. Whereas on the moon, these crater impacts carry a lot more well-preserved information about how our solar system evolved, how the moon evolved, and also because the moon is Earth's closest companion, it's thought that anything that came toward the moon would have come towards Earth. So it's a great sample of what was likely happening to Earth early in Earth's history. We're hoping to find volatiles in the moon's south pole. That basically means compounds like water trapped beneath the moon's soil. The official term for it is regolith, because soil is supposed to have biological components to it. But the silt on the moon's surface might be trapping ice and water. So we're really hoping to study that as well, and get a better sense of how the moon evolved, how Earth evolved, and how our solar system evolved. Of course, as a alien nerd myself, this has implications for understanding how life evolved on Earth. Previous study of moon rocks has gained us a lot of insight into how water actually came to Earth's surface. The previous thinking was that all the water on Earth was deposited through asteroid, comet impacts. But because we've studied the moon's surface and been able to understand how much water likely reached the moon, we're now kind of figuring out what else could have contributed to Earth's water supply. So understanding all of this is a really rich reason to go back to the moon to explore what's really going on there, because it's kind of a great sample of early Earth's evolution. As far as the missions for Mars and other Earth asteroids, near Earth asteroids, there are a number of commercial and scientific goals that include, again, the hunt for life, the hunt to understand our solar system, Mars's evolution, what makes it different from Earth, and it's just a really exciting bit of science that we can look forward to.
In Artemis I, which was the uncrewed mission, it was uncrewed, but it did have an Amazon Alexa on board, which they were testing out to test how voice commands would work with it. I'm not sure why you're going to use an Amazon Alexa while you're on your way to the moon, but maybe you will need that. But they found that it didn't work in the same way. It didn't recognize the voice commands. So they've actually updated the software on board for the Amazon Alexa that's going to be on board this now crewed mission, which will be going soon, so that it does work. So already some space exploration there, right into a device that many of us have in our households. But don't take it with you to space because it won't work without it being updated. Yeah,
and this private interest, the private companies and corporation interest in space travel is another reason why this go around to the moon, the Artemis mission, is different from Apollo, which was entirely completed by government funding. So this collaboration with multiple private companies is another thing that makes these missions slightly more different, maybe increasing the capability of the science that can happen, but also introducing kind of new goals to these missions.
The big question, I guess, is why are we going back now?
Yeah, so after Apollo 11, with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, 6 more trips to the moon happened, the last being Apollo 17 in 1972. So over 50 years ago. And the initial motivation for going to the moon was primarily the space race, the Cold War with the Soviet Union. JFK famously said, "We choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard." And it was this real demonstration of American might, technology, ingenuity. But when we got to the moon, we won the space race. And there wasn't a lot of vision for what would happen after that happened. A lot of future in space travel. And there was a real failure to spread the understanding of the importance of space travel. There was an over-reliance basically on the Cold War to drum up public interest. And so once that milestone was achieved, once we got people on the moon, interest subsided. So there was a program called Skylab, which predated the International Space Station, but that didn't last very long. And once we got to the 70s, the US was facing a lot of difficulty at home that split public attention. There was the Vietnam War that was wildly unpopular, social unrest, a racial reckoning, and that basically shifted focus and the budget. And budget moved away from NASA. Apollo missions 18 through 20 were canceled. The space shuttle missions attempted to kind of recapture the public imagination in space, but there was still this lack of well-communicated goals, justification for spending money on space travel. And then there were two major disasters. The Challenger mission, we're coming up to the 40th anniversary of the Challenger mission, killing all the astronauts on board, and then the Columbia mission in 2003, effectively shutting down the space shuttle program. Really, the issue is it's expensive to take people to space. And for many people on Earth, we fail to see why we would spend money, why we would direct resources to these abstract goals for just a few people to share the elite honor of making it to space. I think it's justified cost. But when you look at the US budget, when the Apollo missions were happening, 10% of the US budget went to the Apollo mission. Now, half of 1% goes to all of NASA. So there's a clear shift in priority in space travel. We are able, with new technology, to make space travel more affordable, but it still requires a massive investment and lengthy processes that are full of delays. And when there's a lengthy process, that's also subject to political whims changing. So over the past 2 decades, the goalposts have shifted back and forth with the lunar missions. And it's not just as easy as it might sound. We've been to the moon before. Why can't we just dust off the blueprints for the Saturn V rocket and send people up to the moon? But there's a number of things that got in the way. Not a small hurdle was COVID-19, delaying many missions. There were a number of failed missions, and even the Artemis II mission has been delayed due to safety concerns with its heat shield, life support systems, and batteries. So it's really difficult. It's really expensive. And I think we're just now figuring out how to justify those costs to the public. But that still remains a large issue for space missions in general.
Considering the intensity of the space race at the time of the original Apollo missions, are you surprised that maybe that another country in that 50-odd years hasn't or didn't continue the, obviously Russia were the main competition and it was very close up to a point. But once America had achieved the ultimate aim, that competition sort of seemed to wane pretty quickly, didn't it?
It did. Since then, the goals of space missions have shifted less from competition and more to collaboration. So we have these international collaborations like the International Space Station. Even the Artemis II mission is an international collaboration. It houses CubeSats and technology from all over the world, countries like Argentina, Germany, South Korea. So the shift away from competition and more towards collaboration has adjusted kind of the goals and expectations, but also introduced new issues, balancing kind of more voices. There's also, in the Artemis missions, the Artemis Accords, which is a non-binding agreement, but basically says that exploring the moon will be a peaceful process. And over 50 countries have signed on to that. Again, kind of reestablishing the collaborative nature of current science missions to space. I think where there is renewed competition is not in government projects, but in private companies like SpaceX. There was the race to be the first company to send private astronauts to space, or private citizens to space. So I think when it comes to competition, it's in the corporation sector and less in the public sector.
And we've seen that already, haven't we, with lots of significant individuals who have been to space as such, but not in this format. So looking further onto the horizon, then we could maybe potentially see that people are paying to go to any potential moon base that's set up in however many years from now.
Even that's probably going to be the future of space stations when the International Space Station is decommissioned. The thinking is it might be replaced by private space stations that will host scientists, but also citizens, the science curious in space, to make it more of a tourism experience, which is not without its controversies. So it will be interesting to see how that continues to unfold over the course of the next decade, I think.
There's a lot that needs to go into it. Obviously, if you're going all that way and living in space for real, then there's more. It's more than just blasting off into a rocket for 20 minutes, isn't it, to skirt on the very fringes of space? But that's a bridge to cross at another point. So looking then, not long now, around about the 8th, maybe slightly later than that. And so in a month from now, we should... into March, we should have some answers.
Yes, and all this is building toward, again, the Artemis II mission, which will be a 30-day long mission in comparison to Artemis II, which will be 10 days. It will involve 2 crew members of a four crew mission landing on the moon's surface, returning back to the Orion capsule, and then returning to Earth. But that mission timeline is still very much in the air. Lessons from Artemis II will continue to shape how Artemis III looks. But right now, the earliest estimates are the beginning of 2028 for the Artemis III people landing on the surface of the moon.
We've had humans on the moon before, but it is still going to be a massive event, isn't it, when it happens again? Probably as big, if not bigger, than the first time, because more people have got access to TVs to watch it now, because most of us weren't, none of us, I don't think, on this particular podcast were around in 1969 for the original landing. So this is like for the vast majority of people, this will be the first time that we've ever witnessed it.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about the technological capabilities as well is kind of mind-boggling. Harkening back to Apollo 11, the computers that controlled the Apollo missions had 1 million times less RAM than a 4 gigabyte phone. The processing power of modern phones are 100,000 times more powerful than the Apollo mission. So not only will the missions have more capabilities, technologically speaking, but the images that we'll get, the science that will be done, the type of communication that's possible will completely change with this return to the moon. So it's not just rehashing Apollo. It's really bringing this new stage of technology and of interest and science goals to the moon. So hopefully it will do what the Apollo missions did and bring a lot of public interest back to space. And as we progress toward a sustained presence on the moon, hopefully that public interest in the moon will sustain as well.
My favourite comment that we had recently on our social media actually comes from Maura's video that she posted just a few days ago about the Artemis mission, and I love it. Here it was. So Maura did a video talking all about the Artemis mission, and the kind of headline was, "We're going back to the moon," and one comment by somebody on TikTok was, "No, they are not." That was it. I don't know how we're ever going to get round this, because you can physically take these people to Cape Canaveral and go, "Look at that, watch, rocket's off, there it goes," and they'll still be like, "Nah, it's not though, is it?" It's just smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. It is interesting that people have latched on to the moon landing as a conspiracy theory. All the crazy things that we have done on Earth and off Earth, and that's what they don't believe. Maybe they're also pointing out the more semantic detail that we're not going to land on the moon with this mission. We're going to the moon. That difference doesn't really strike me as comment worthy, but I don't know.
Well, we're going closer to the moon than we've been for a heck of a long time, really. So it's it's the next stage to actually land on the moon, isn't it? So keep your eyes peeled, and there'll be more, I'm sure, on socials and what have you as this mission unfolds. And of course, you'll be able to keep up to date with every single move of that, I'm sure, through the NASA official website for the mission as well. You won't miss a thing if you want to keep up to date with exactly everything that's going on there. All the details are on their website. Let's have a quick look before we finish off then of what's going on as we now head into February. We're recording this on the 1st of February, and I haven't double-checked to see if it is the full moon, but certainly the moon is pretty large in the sky right at this moment in time. So darker nights will be ahead in the coming days. How are things looking then for February? What can we look forward to over the next few weeks?
Can I just say that I really hope it does get scrubbed at the beginning of February, because I'm going to go to Florida at the end of the month, and I want to see it on the launch pad. So I'm kind of hoping it's going to get scrubbed tomorrow. I know that's really selfish of me, and there's greater things at large than just me seeing a rocket on a launch pad. But it would be nice.
It's good, wouldn't it? If I mean, they NASA really do need to think about our podcast. And to have you there for the launch would be a great thing for the Kielder Observatory social media, not least. So there is that, isn't there? There
is, yeah. But to answer your question, yes, it is a full moon right now. It's the snow moon. I love I've really enjoyed, again, social media alive with all of the astronomically themed press articles recently. As we've gone into this new year, both months, there's been articles saying, hey, it's full moon, go outside and look at it. We're really sensationalizing it like it's a snow moon, as if it's something rare. It happens every year. It's just that we're talking about it, which I think is amazing because it gives people, I don't know, a reason to go out and look at it maybe. I just still think it's one of the best things to look at with a telescope. I think it's amazing to see it. All the detail.
You should think about going there.
Yeah, no.
Artemis II.
No.
The Kielder Observatory podcast team.
Yeah, no.
Oh, God.
I don't know about that. I mean, I love flying, and I guess that's the ultimate flight, but flying to the moon. You know what it is, actually? I think it's the training process for astronauts that they have to go through. And having seen the recent clip from that train spotter guy off of TikTok,
Francis Bourgeois.
Yeah. Who I love, by the way. I love following him on social media. But his trailer for his astronaut training is quite graphic, and there's quite a lot of vomit, and I don't really like that.
Well, I watched it. It was on. I mean, you can watch it again online, but I think the full thing was on last week. I watched the whole thing. It's very good. And we're talking there about the Artemis mission, and there's no small detail in that because he goes to NASA and meets some of the people involved, partly with that mission, but also with the new space station that will replace the International Space Station. They're working on various bits of it now, and obviously there's a lot of private companies involved in that. So he's involved. He goes and sees some of that, and it's like the hatch. It was the hatch that they were inventing, and he was really fascinated by the locking mechanism, as he would be. But he went on. They put him in the centrifuge, the RAF centrifuge, to see how he got on at 4G. Yeah, and he passed out at about 3. So he didn't make that. and then he went on the zero gravity plane.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he was doing well. He was doing well. He had a couple of little flights in it, and then I think it was the 9th or 10th, go round. And, that's the one. Yeah. So he was in the middle of that. And he said, "Oh, I think I'm going to be sick," and they gave him they gave him this sick bag, and he had to fix it to his, because obviously you don't want that flying around with no gravity particularly, and so he had it. He had the bag over his entire face, and he took the bag off, and it was all over his face.
Oh,
and they made him sit down for the rest of the flight, even though everybody else was still enjoying zero G in the back. But no, it's definitely worth watching, and it's a 2-part thing. I think I haven't seen the second one yet, but again, I think there's more about. If not Artemis, it's the as I say the work towards the. I think it's to do with medical procedures and carrying out medical procedures in space, actually. But they were talking about the spacesuits and so on that they're likely to be wearing on the Artemis mission, and how they're different, and they put him in one, and it's good. It's it's a bit of fluff, but it's an easy watch if you're into space. Then. And probably if you're listening to this podcast, hopefully you are. It's just going to be a disappointing hour for you. But
still listening.
If it's still now 48 minutes in, yeah. But yeah, it's as I say, it's not going to give you an advanced knowledge, but it's something for the whole family to enjoy. I think.
Did they drop him on an island, something, and just leave him to let him fend for himself? Because they have to do that with astronauts at some point, don't they?
I'm not sure. I'm going to say there's this second episode yet, which I haven't seen, so I don't know if they did. But yeah, I think there is that survival skills element, isn't there? Yeah,
and teamworking as well. It's quite an important thing. I remember Clay mentioning that teamworking was like such a huge part of being an astronaut. And Tim Peake says something very similar in the talks that he's done as well that I've seen.
Yeah. Well, Tim Peake's also in this this documentary we were just talking about.
He's very small, isn't he?
I never really measured him, but
he's small.
I suppose
it's really small, but it's like a micro. It's like a really small, well-built human.
Well, there's a lot of advantages to being small. You need less food. You take up less space. I'm literally not joking. It benefits being small.
You wouldn't want to be like a big 6'6" astronaut, really, would you? Especially when you're in close confines and you're cramped up like that. I mean, it's bad enough going on Ryanair, let alone flying to the moon for 10 days. It's definitely going to have its benefits. And weight, I think weight's the big thing, isn't it? That's got to be the big thing. Although you're weightless after a certain point, but getting into space,
Plus, if you're larger, you need to eat more food. That has weight to it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, we digress. So that's the moon.
That's the
moon in all angles.
Speaking of which, it disappeared around the 17th of the month. 17th of the month even, which is when there's a new moon. So best time of the month to be outside looking for the slightly dimmer objects. And we're starting to get into the spring sky now, which is filled with lots of galaxies and stuff. And a lesser impressive part of our galaxy, our Milky Way galaxy, but what's worth just having a think about when you're outside looking at the Milky Way at this time of year is that it's the part of the Milky Way that Galileo would have looked at in the 1600s. So when he crafted his little telescope, which wasn't called telescope at the time, when he crafted his little telescope, he pointed it towards the Milky Way that he could see at that time. And it was in late January. And he could see that it was made out of what he called innumerable stars, which is the point in history where we realised, really, I guess you could say that's the point in history where we realised what the Milky Way was actually made out of. It had been theorised, thought about, but really seen for the first time with a human eyeball, I guess.
Wow, there you go. You can look back in time, as you always are doing, really, in space, I suppose, looking back in time, but there's something to consider.
If you find yourself in Antarctica, February 17th as well, there is an annular eclipse, which is where the moon aligns with the sun, similar to how it would on a solar eclipse. But because the moon is in its farthest point in its orbit, it appears slightly smaller, so it doesn't perfectly cover the sun. So instead of seeing the solar corona, the wispy haze around the sun that you get during a solar eclipse, you get this kind of ring called the Ring of Fire. So any of our Antarctic listeners, you have that to look forward to this month in terms of the moon.
I wonder if we do have any Antarctic listeners.
You never know. You never know. They do day trips to the Antarctica, I think, is it New Zealand? I saw somebody was going there. They got a ticket to go to the day trip to Antarctica.
It's very cold.
Also penguins, I've heard, love podcasts.
Hey, we don't care. As long as they're downloading it, it doesn't matter if they're a penguin or what. We'll take them all. I went to Australia at the start of January, and when the moon was last pretty big, and I was sending Dan these pictures, and the moon being upside down and back to front.
It's so weird.
And Dan's going, what?
I know that it should look like that, but it just, I don't know, it just really messes with me. I'd like to see it one day. I'd love to go to the Southern Hemisphere and see the moon and the sun transit the north instead of the south. I think that would be really weird.
As far as other things to see in the night sky, we have 2 planets that should be really nice. Jupiter still looks incredible. It's at opposition now, which means that we're both on the same side of the sun, meaning that it's relatively close by. The closest it will be for another 13 months, which makes it look really big and really, really bright. It will be the second largest thing in the sky, the first being the moon. It's a great object to look at with just regular binoculars as well. You're able to make out the 4 Galilean moons, which is a historic view, and you can think about Galileo's perspective on the Milky Way galaxy as well. It's also kind of your last few moments to capture Saturn before Saturn overlaps with the sun. So we say goodbye to Saturn in early February.
It's rubbish anyway.
Take that back. Do you know how many moons Saturn has?
Lots. Stop counting. Lots.
More than any planet in our solar system.
Greedy.
Worth appreciating for that alone.
Yeah.
You can find Saturn towards the horizon in the western sky. Jupiter is in the constellation Gemini, so you can find it using the 2 bright stars, Castor and Pollux. It will be the 3rd brighter star in that constellation.
And are we still in winter triangle territory as well? That's always one round now, isn't it?
Yep. So winter triangle includes Betelgeuse or Betelgeuse, depending on how risk averse you are and how often you're saying the name of that star. That star is, of course, Orion's armpit. In the Orion Hunter constellation, he's holding a club above his arm, and the orange bit is his stinky armpit. Stinky armpit that could explode at any minute, so keep your eye on Betelgeuse. We also have Sirius, which is kind of the collar on the dog Canis Major. And Procyon, is that how you say that star name? Procyon. Which is in Canis Minor. So we have 2 dogs and a hunter to look out for in the winter sky.
And technically a 6-planet parade at the end of the month as well. Even though it's a rubbish one. There's technically 6 planets in the sky visible all at the same time. That's about the 25th to the 28th. And there's a nice little conjunction between Saturn, Venus and Mercury. Really, really quite close to the sun.
And are they visible, naked eye visible, or are we telescope or beyond?
Yeah, so you get them with the naked eye of Saturn, Venus and Mercury just after sunset, for sure. Very, very briefly, though. And Neptune's actually in there as well, but then you're going to need a telescope for Neptune. And then, of course, Jupiter and Uranus is hanging around. So, yeah, 6 planets.
Great stuff. Well, and plenty to... and Earth, yeah. Obviously count that one.
But Earth isn't in the sky, so...
Yeah, that's true. So that's what's coming up in February. That Six Planet Parade will be right at the end of February. Doesn't it peak literally at the end of February, isn't it? Around 28th, I think it says it.
Yeah, that's right.
There. So look out for that right at the end of February. As far as Kielder Observatory itself is concerned, just to run through what you can get involved in, there's plenty of events going on. And if you haven't listened to the previous episode, then maybe you're not familiar with the fact that Kielder Observatory has expanded to a new location at the Twice Brewed Inn, which brings many benefits, not least beer and food, if you want to factor that in as well. So, there's lots going on, and obviously new locations now as well, Dan.
There is, yeah, and we've just actually done something really quite nice this last week. We've revitalised the observatory at Twice Brewed Observatory. So we've been gradually doing it up over the course of the last week. We've painted the floor today. Dan Monk sent me a lovely picture of a painted floor all the way to the final flagstone, which was half painted because he'd run out of paint. So most of the floor is painted. And it's got a nice TV in there now as well, and some telescopes and stuff. And we're just working on making the roof mechanism work much better than it does already. Right now it needs 3 people to yark it open. So we're working on that one. But that means now that we've got a nice suite of different areas that you can go to at Twice Brewed. You've got our planetarium, which also we're working on improvements for the planetarium as well over the next few weeks. We've got the space where we gather and we talk about all of the cool things. And then we've got a lovely big open field with some telescopes that we put out there, and now a roll-off roof observatory as well. So things are expanding quite a bit at Twice Brewed Observatory. And then we've got the stuff that's happening at the Kielder Observatory as well. And this month is actually the Dark Skies Festival. So during the school holidays coming up on the 16th of February, week commencing 16th of February, that's Dark Skies Festival across the northeast. And we'll be doing quite a few activities. We are sold out for that week at Kielder Observatory, but we also do, of course, have still a little bit of availability left at Twice Brewed. And there's loads of other people who are involved in the Dark Skies Festival as well. Lots of activities happening, renaming of beers, people making cakes. And we're heading on Tuesday the 17th to the Newcastle United Foundation building, which is just next to St James's Park, to do some urban stargazing with our friends from Battlestead's Observatory and our friends from Northumberland National Park as well.
Top stuff. Lots going on. Looking online, if you go to kielderobservatory.org, you can see all of the events available. And both at Kielder Observatory, the main original site, the OG, and then also Twice Brewed Inn as well, and the various events that are going on there. So there's different stuff. There's late night Aurora at the Inn. There's also some of the kids' events as well going on with the half-term holidays. Now, they might be booking up pretty quickly, I guess, but there's plenty of school holidays coming up around this time of year, so definitely check those out. So talking about the moon, we've got Origins of the Universe, late night discovery events, if you want to. Oranges of the Universe. Oranges. And if you want to stay up really late, we've got the late night discovery events as well. Check it all out online. Either at Kielder Observatory or the Twice Brewed Inn, if that's better for you, because you can actually at least get the bus there. Not if the bus is still running afterwards or not, but yeah, at least you get there.
In the theme of the podcast, Twice Brewed also has flushing toilets.
Oh yeah,
so, an amenity to be excited about.
Yeah, yes, it is. It is, and of course, hotel rooms too, so you can stay over and flush the toilet at the same time. So all bases covered. I guess there you are from Spain. How do we tie in the Artemis II mission to the Twice Brewed Inn? Toilets
connect everything.
It's always the common thread that unites us all. Great stuff. Well, thanks very much. If you want to find out more, head online, kielderobservatory.org. But Maura, thanks for joining us. That's it now. You're in. You've done the first one down. So all good.
That's it. I quit. All right. Bye.
is off. Yeah. Well, you're going to be part of the moon mission yourself, so
yeah,
we
Headed
won't
to
see you
Florida.
until after that. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Come
thank
back.
you so much for having me on my first Kilder Observatory podcast.
A pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll catch you again soon, because I think the plan is to do another one before the end of February. I think is the plan. So watch out for more regular Kilder Observatory action on the podcast. So we're back with you soon, and in the meantime, check out all you need to know, kilderobservatory.org, and on the social media pages as well, and you'll see more of Maura doing a thing.
The
Great.
sketches are really good, actually. Yeah, really, really, really good. I like the chalkboard sketches. They're great.
Yeah, that could be your thing.
Chalkboard sketching.
It makes you feel like a kid again. It's a lot of fun.